Welcome, you're live on ABN. Who do we have with us on air?
This is Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. Welcome to the program. What's your question?
Well, I have more of a statement than a question. Couple things. First of all, all these verses used in the Quran are completely out of context. It's all within warfare. What does this have to do with killing innocent people? This is all within war. And second of all, this whole debate seems kind of silly because you have four people arguing against one guy, and he's on for like 30 seconds, and you have all this stuff thrown at him. He can't even respond to everything.
I have to cut you off because we're running out of time. I'm giving each person on this panel the same amount of time. I've actually given Sammy a little more time because we've had 3 other people trying to respond, and they've been back and forth. So please don't criticize the structure of the program. But I'm going to turn it over to Waleed to comment on your statement that the verses that are taken out of the Quran by these 3 panelists have been taken out of context. For Waleed, go ahead with that.
Well, I mean, let's take one of the most prominent scholars in Islam today, which is Ramadan al-Bouti, who from Al-Azhar University. Dr. Muhammad Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti writes that offensive and not defensive war is the noblest holy war within Islam. The holy war, Islamic Jihad that is, as it is known in Islamic jurisprudence, is basically an offensive war, not a defensive war. It's not within war and with defensive war as the caller tried to claim. This is the duty, I'm reading the quote, this is the duty of Muslims in every age. This is not just a condition in Iraq and Afghanistan, as Za'atar is claiming. In every age, when the needed military power becomes available to them. In fact, we've seen that in history. Every time Islamist governments become powerful, they begin to become the aggressors. I guess Mr. Za'atari, I have a question for him. If he's ready to say that the invasion of Spain was futuhat or an occupation, because Muslims declare that these are liberations. So I guess Muslims say that they liberated Constantinople, they liberated Spain. Is he ready to say these are occupations, since he's talking about America's occupation of Iraq? Let me finish the quote. He says, this is the phrase in which the meaning of the holy war has taken its final form. Thus, the apostle of Allah said, I was commanded to fight the people until they believe in Allah and his messenger. The concept of holy war, jihad in Islam, does not take into consideration whether defensive or an offensive war. Its goal is the exaltation of the word of Allah and the construction of Islamic society and the establishment of Allah's kingdom on earth, regardless of the means. The means would be offensive warfare. In this case, it is the epics of noblest holy war, as the Quran stated. So I can quote Ibn Khaldun, you can quote Muhammad's 100 hadiths.
I do want to give an opportunity for Sammy to respond, but real quick, I'm actually glad Andrew brought that up. Andrew, you said that we have 1 Muslim scholar on the program and 3 Christian scholars. We have repeatedly asked and requested and basically given an open door to other Muslim scholars who want to be part of this program, but no Muslim scholars want to be take the courage to represent the Islamic side. So again, here we are announcing that if you are a Muslim scholar, if you have interest in being a part of this program or our debate night program or our news and views program or our Jesus or Muhammad program, 4 programs in English where you can represent the Islamic side. If you're interested, all you have to do is email us to abn@abnset.com, or you can call us at 248-416-1300 and we will set it up. So I just want to make that clear. Sammy, I want you to comment on what Brother Waleed was just saying.
Okay, first of all, as to the hadith you quoted, you always like to cherry pick some scholars. Well, why don't we look at what Ibn Taymiyyah, who's considered a huge scholar, what did he say about that hadith? According to him, that hadith was should be applied in defensive situations. Now, we can quote tons and tons of Islamic classical scholarship that have had these debates with each other. whether this is for offensive war and defensive war. But you want to just pick some scholars who say that this is an offensive war, and it's not really relevant to the topic. But then you ask about the Spanish, when the Muslims went into Spain, and how is it different, or will I call it an occupation? First of all, when the Muslims went into Spain, it wasn't to go take their natural resources like when our country, America, went into Iraq. When the Muslims went into Spain, it wasn't to overthrow a dictator that they put in place, like America put Saddam in place. When America went to Iraq, they were essentially overthrowing their very own dictator who they put in power. I mean, who gave Saddam the weapons of mass destruction in the 80s, which he used against the Iranians and the Kurds? Who gave him those weapons? He was our dictator. But when he went off the leash, we went to take him out and take his natural resources out. When the Muslims went into Spain, it was the golden age of that time and the golden age of the people living there, Muslims, Christians, and Jews. When America went into Iraq, can we call it a golden age? When the Muslims went into Spain, the Jews, the Christians prospered. In fact, Walid, why don't you say what happened to the Jews when the Christians kicked the Muslims out? What happened to the Jews when the Christians reconquered Spain? What did they do to the Jews, and what did they do to the Golden Age? So it's a joke that you want to compare what happened in Spain with what happened in Iraq, which is an illegal war for their natural resources and against a dictator who we, America, put in power. And
Okay.
you want to compare it with
Waleed,
that.
30 seconds to respond, and we have to take our final call of the evening.
If Islam, as he says, was such a wonderful, peace-loving thing that existed in Spain, then why did the Spaniards finally throw them out? Why did Tariq ibn Walid, when he took over Spain, burnt the Spaniards in calderons in boiling water? So, and while Islam was in Spain, why did they inject Sharia law in which Christians had to pay jizya taxation? By an upper hand, may they be subjugated and humiliated. And how many thousands of Christians were massacred in Spain? The Spain started a war of defense in the end to try to throw out the Islamists. And the problem with the Jewish issue that he's bringing up is because many of the Jewish people began to collaborate with the Islamists, and there was a lot of animosity between the government and the Jewish collaborators with the Islamists. The same way you see in America. Who is collaborating with the Islamists? You have liberal Americans. They are, and in fact, he always quotes these liberal Americans for us to refute them. The difference between me and Mr. Zatari is that we have many refutations of our own kind. We refute American political pundits. We refute these experts. But you don't find Islamists like Mr. Zatari going and refuting Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti. His war is not with al-Bouti. His war is with the Christians who try to fight jihadism. This is the technique that they use. And this technique is obvious, and we should basically reject that kind of technique that he is trying to use in this debate.
And with that, let's take our final call of the evening. Welcome to the program. Who do we have on air with us?
This is Manu. Hi, Samar.
Hi, Manu. Manu, you have about a minute because we're running out of time.
Sure.
Did you have a certain question?
Sure. My comment is very brief.
Yes.
One of the tragedies of people trying to analyze Islam and the Quran and trying to fit things, with the jihadis, is that they try to use the Quran, and where they go wrong is that they go wrong where they want to apply, and it's a misapplication of the context and so forth. The first example of jihad is in chapter 246. God wrote for the children of Israel that when they were wronged, it was written on them. It goes into chapter 2:16. Then it's written on Muslims when they are wronged. You can verify that, Walid, and you can verify that, Kamal, that you can go to chapter 22:39. The permission to fight is given to you when you are fought, because you were wronged. So that is repeated in the Quran. So I have to reject that there is no offensive jihad. The first step in the qital, which is permission to combat, to kill, is when the Muslims feel that they are wronged, they're driven from their homes, they're fought within their religion. Thank you.
Thank you, Manu. Kamal, I'd like you to respond real quick.
I'll turn mine to Walid, but I want to say this before Islam. A question was asked earlier. Before jihad, before Crusaders came jihad, because and came terrorism. When Muhammad terrorized the Jewish people and the Christian people out of the Arabian Peninsula, from Al-Ta'if all the way to, you name it, Bani Qurayza, you name it, they were butchered out of their land just because they're Jews, and that was ethnic cleansing. But I'm going to turn my rest of the time to Walid. Walid, take it from here.
Islamists always use their non-existent alkaline to neutralize their acid reality. They always give these quotes from the Quran, supposedly it's a defensive warfare. Where was the defensive warfare when they occupied all the countries? The Middle East was a Christian country. Egypt was a Christian country. Lebanon was a Christian country. All these countries in the Middle East, you had the Armenian genocide, you had the problems in Sudan, you had the invasion of Constantinople, converting the largest church in Christendom, Hagia Sophia, into a mosque. Is he saying that the Christians wronged the Muslims at this point? Za'atari failed to answer the question that was asked to him very clearly. What started first, Islamic Jihad or the Crusades? He evaded the question. He never answered it. The answer to the question, obviously, that jihad commenced before the Crusades. The Crusades came as a response. Also, the other tactic they use American confessed sins. We confess our sins when it comes to the issues of torturing prisoners in Iraq. In fact, people are punished for torturing these prisoners. We confess many sins in the Crusades. We confess many sins in Spain. But the question is, I ask him again, is there anything during the Islamic history that the Muslims did wrong? I asked him the question verbatim. Was that an invasion of Spain? And he says, well, it's basically not an invasion. The whole Islamic conquest, as I quoted from the Quran itself and from the jurisprudence, you have Al-Ghazali. Al-Ghazali, you can quote me Umar ibn al-Khattab, don't cut a tree, don't do this, don't do that. But I can quote you Al-Ghazali. You have an alkaline for every acid. Yet there are no alkalines in reality, and the acid of Islam is the reality that you are not responding to, sir.
And with that, we do have to end it here. I want to turn it over to Pastor Wejdi for some final comments. Possibly we can re-invite Brother Sami if he will come back on the show to continue this topic. I want to turn it over to you for a final minute, and then we have to end the show.
Okay. To answer the question, what's going on in the mind of the terrorists?
Yes.
Surah At-Tawbah, Surah 9, آية 5 فإذا انسلخ الأشهر الحرم فاقتلوا المشركين حيث وجدتموهم. This is what's going on in their mind. Is when the time comes, kill al-mushrikeen, kill the infidel, kill the Christian, kill the Jewish. This is what's going on in the mind of the Muslim. It's not about any other things like what foreign policy or about the states, about going to fund Iraq or funding Saddam. All these are just hangers. The real things is Islam, the real things is the Quran, and the real things is Muhammad himself.
Well, it seems like the debate will continue more than this program. I want to thank all four of you for joining us this evening. As some of you may know, ABN is in its fundraiser, and the reason for their campaign, this fall campaign, is to raise funds to launch a second TV station in early 2011. The channel would be entirely in English, and the goal for the new TV station is to equip all Americans with the facts and the real truth behind Islamic terrorism, the risk of Islamization coming to the West, and why we all need to stand united against Islamization coming to the West, and what would happen if we don't. So we encourage you to sponsor this project, and if you would like more information on the project, just go to abnsat.com. We're going to have to put this on hold because, again, there are many differences in opinion, but we also have to be very courageous in asking the right questions to the right people so that we not only have the answers to why these things are happening, but also so that we can spread the word in our communities, awareness, to the majority of Americans who otherwise may not have the slightest idea what is going on. We thank you for tuning in this evening. Join us next Tuesday.